chapter 7. The name of the chapter is Gid Hanasheh, the sciatic nerve. And we're holding on page Tzadik Daled, 94A1. So we ended off yesterday speaking about a scenario where someone wants to sell a goy or give a goy a gift of the thigh, but he wants to give it to him complete with the thigh with the Gid Hanasheh. The concern is that he's going to sell it to a Jew. So we said it's not a problem that he's going to sell it to a Jew. Why? Because the Gid Hanasheh is discernible, meaning it's noticeable. If you you get a thigh as a gift, or you're buying a thigh from a goy, you'll see the Gid Hanasheh. So the Gemara starts saying, but 1 second, what about if he cuts it to pieces? Now the Gid Hanasheh is not so noticeable. What do you do then? That's what the Gemara says. Nami lo shleima nami lo lishadle. You should not allow. He should not be allowed to send him even a whole thigh without removing the Gid Hanasheh. Why? For perhaps the idolater will cut it up and sell it to a Jew, and the Jew wouldn't know that. He said, "Oh, it's probably kosher because the goy said I got it from Reuven." And he's going to cut up to pieces. He's going to sell you maybe 3 pieces, someone else. But inside those pieces, there is Gid Hanasheh.
So this man has that. When there's a problem, we just sell the basar to the goy, right? In other words, so how do we justify this?
Today it's a different world. It's easier because you're not going to buy any meat from a goy if it doesn't have kashrus on it.
No.
So you can say maybe
there may be a non-religious Jew that we're going to A&P, and he doesn't. There's no kosher meat, and he just buys what's there.
He eats non-kosher anyway. It doesn't make a difference. He eats Purdue, right?
Wait a minute. He can eat Purdue, which is non-kosher chicken, but it's not Gid Hanasheh.
No, I'm saying
so it's an extra law.
Right, but the violation is same. They want to go for. They want to get specifically a steak with what they call it, filet mignon. It has to have all the fat in there. It has to have all the issues, halachic issues.
All I'm asking is that when we sell to a goy today, it's not a problem, right?
There is a problem to sell. So there's
what do they tell the goy to
when you sell it in general, when you sell it on in a commercial way, it's not it's not as complex as selling it directly to somebody.
It's like mailing a letter Erev Shabbos. In other words, it's not done specifically to you. The post office is
right. They open up a cow. It's treif. Right away, you go give it to the goyim.
Right, they have another plant.
They cut it up. They live the.
If a Jew decides to buy a non-kosher food, buy a non-kosher food. So you're saying instead of him having, let's say 3 lavin, he's having now 4 lavin for buying the non-kosher meat. But it's also shegig. They don't really know what they're doing.
But we can't be involved in being gorim. In other words,
and there will be no end to it because you're not going to be able to have any kosher meat. What are you going to do with the kosher cow? Yeah, you have a cow now. You shechted it. It's kosher. If you're going to start dealing with the sinews, the cow price jumps from, let's say, $500 to $1,000. Nobody buys the meat.
Yeah.
What do you do? So it's a catch-22. It's easier to tell the Jew, buy kosher meat.
But there's places where a Jew can't buy kosher meat.
They don't eat meat.
So I can say, okay, I'm not going to sell cars to Jews because they will drive it possibly on Shabbos. I'm allowing him to drive it on Shabbos.
This is
but you have the choice.
Exactly.
You're selling him the car. He has a choice.
Exactly. He has a choice. He has a choice to buy kosher meat or non-kosher meat. That's it. So, no, we're saying, but you're giving him meat that has Gid Hanasheh inside. He has a choice whether to eat it or not. He needs to know a Jew.
It's bishgaga by him because he doesn't even know what Gid Hanasheh is.
The whole thing is bishgaga. And even if we know the Gid Hanasheh is there, he said, because it's there, I want to eat it.
But you know.
Like that's
so
what I was saying. That's what I was saying about the filet mignon. The filet mignon is, he wants it because it's there.
So we have this, when you said, don't sell him a car, so all shluchim have a problem in places where they know that people are gonna drive to shul on Shabbos, right? There are people that come here, they drive their cars to shul on Shabbos.
Right.
Right?
So should we close the shul down? What do you do?
That's what I'm saying. You don't close the shul down, but it's the same type of problem. I remember a person that used to drive his car to shul, to Chabad. And when somebody would say something, he would say, the rabbi told me he wants me to come to shul. That was always his answer. They want me to
Yeah,
be
but the rabbi didn't tell him come with a car. He just told him to come. You
That's
understand
all the
difference?
hedger he needed. Was it
But if the rabbi
told
knows where
him-
he lives far.
Anyway, Gemara
Rabbi
says,
doesn't want to know.
the-
Call to Chabad, say, I don't know nothing.
it's
I'm
a
just
short
telling
day,
you
it's a
come
short
to
day.
shul.
It's a short day, you gotta put up the Chullin.
I'm just telling you come to
By
shul.
same, or the Gemara introduces,
Chickens to deliver.
the
Chabad
Gemara,
never tell you come with a car.
Okay, guys, I don't want to put my comment on it, Rabbi.
the Gemara introduces two possible interpretations to our Mishnah. If you prefer, you can say b'moker shemachrizin, b'ibay sema shehin machrizin. It says you can say there are places where they announce that this cow is sold to the goy, or you prefer you can say b'mokem she'en machrizin. Mishnah is dealing with a place where they do not announce. The Gemara explains the first interpretation. If you prefer, you can say that the Mishnah deals with a place where they do announce, where it is permitted to buy meat from an idolater on a day that no announcement was made. If there was no announcement that the goy bought meat or received meat, then you can possibly buy from him. To buy meat from an idolater on a day that no announcement was made. Nevertheless, no concern exists in sending an idolater a whole thigh without removing the Gid Hanasheh, since even if the idolater were to cut it up and sell it to a Jew, we would not assume that the Gid Hanasheh was removed. For the cutting of the thigh by an idolater is recognizable, meaning he's going to do it in a specific way. That is, the idolater's manner of butchering a thigh is recognizably different from that of a Jew, who cuts it lengthwise in order to facilitate the removal of the Gid Hanasheh. He would cut it pieces, like he would make steaks out of it, slices. A Jew would cut it long ways, which doesn't make sense, but to us it makes sense because we can get the Gid Hanasheh out.
Right.
So it's recognizable. Or the Gemara explains the second interpretation. Or you prefer, you can say that the Mishnah deals with a place where they do not announce. What does it mean announce? They're telling, today I gave a gift to Alex. I gave a gift to James. So they should know that the goy received the meat, where it is generally forbidden for a Jew to buy meat from an idolater. Nevertheless, your question that it should be permitted to send even a cut up thigh to an idolater poses no difficulty, for the rabbis prohibited sending an idolater a cut up thigh. Why? Due to the decree, perhaps he might give it to the idolater in the presence of another Jew. What's the issue with that? So it says, in number 6, he writes, seeing that it was given to him by a Jew, would assume that it was kosher meat. If a goy would receive a piece of meat from a Jew in front of a Jew, so the Jew that is observing would say it's probably kosher meat that he's giving him, and therefore I can maybe eat some of it. I can participate in the barbecue.
You should ask him, is this kosher meat? You should ask him.
Why
He's standing over there.
Why a Jew would believe it's kosher?
No, it depends which Jew too, huh?
Right.
If you know somebody who is...
So it's a concern. Maybe you would consider it kosher. An alternative explanation of the Mishnah, or the Mishnah's rule. By Seima, or you prefer say that the reason that the Mishnah prohibits sending a cut up thigh to an idolater without removing the Gid Hanasheh is not out of concern that a Jew might buy it from him and assume that Gid Hanasheh was removed, but rather Mishum de Kagonim Ladaite, because the Jew is stilling his mind, meaning he is misleading the idolater, which is prohibited. How is he misleading the idolater? It says number 10, by sending an idolater a butchered thigh, the idolater assumed that the Jew is displaying exceptional friendship, in that he took the trouble to painstakingly remove the Gid Hanasheh and present him with a gift fit for a Jew himself. The guy would think, oh, he's giving me a gift that would be fitting for a Jew, would be suitable for a Jew. The Amar Shmuel also lignev das abris. This is connected to what we were speaking about. You're right, it is forbidden to steal the minds of people, to deceive people. V'afilu daita shelovet kochovin, including the mind of an idolater. However, this ruling of Shmuel was not stated explicitly. Rather, it was derived by inference from an incident involving Shmuel. The Shmuel havo ka'ovar kamavro. For Shmuel was crossing a river in a ferry. He said to his attendant, compensate the ferry operator, meaning pay the guy. Paise ve'ikpa. The attendant compensated him, and Shmuel was upset. My time, Ikpa, the Gemara says, what was the reason that Shmuel was upset? He did exactly what he asked him to do. Right. Because it was treifa hen that he gave him. He gave the goy, he gave him non-kosher chicken. And he gave it to him instead of a properly slaughtered hen. Rava said, Shmuel told his attendant to give him a anpek to drink. What is anpek? So it says in 15, this is the name of a vessel which held a revis, generally used when drinking pure wine. Vashki chamro mezigo, and he gave him diluted wine. He wanted to give him real, organic wine, and he gave him diluted wine. So Shmuel, we see that Shmuel has expressed displeasure, that he was not comfortable with what his attendant do. What do we learn from it? In his attendant deceptive act, it is evident that he holds that it is unlawful to mislead any person. Doesn't care who it is. You know that misleading can be even with somebody comes unexpectedly to your house, and you say, "Oh, I was just
Waiting for you.
I was so happy."
If it's true, it's true. But if it's not true,
It's misleading if it's not true, because the guy's thinking, "Wow, he loves me so much. He's thinking about me. He's this, he's that." So it has many layers. The idea of misleading.
In the same way, you shouldn't be allowed to compliment a person unless you really mean it, right? Some people compliment somebody for the wrong reason. They want to.
You're allowed to compliment somebody for encouragement, to see if you see somebody's down, you find something that is good in him.
You couldn't,
Yeah.
Right, but what if the
but to say to a person, "Oh, you're so smart. You're such a good businessman or something," because you think you're going to get a favor from him because you're.
That's misleading. Yeah.
Because if we don't give compliments when the person is at the place. You wait for the person to get out, then you give compliments.
That's another issue. That's
Not the whole thing.
My-
We have.
yeah.
But then we say sometimes leaving the Gid Hanasheh, or for the filet mignon and these other things for the goy that is tastier and choice for them, it would be giving diluted wine by removing the most flavored part of the meat to them. So in a sense,
No, the idea is not being straightforward about it. If you come to the goy and you say, "Look, I didn't want to bother with the Gid Hanasheh taking out the painstaking job. So I'm giving it to you with the sciatic nerve, and I can't eat it with the sciatic nerve. So at least the goy knows that you didn't go out of your way to give him this gift. There's a thoughtful gift, and there's a not so thoughtful gift. And so you're not misleading the goy, thinking, oh, the guy's worked so hard to give me this thigh, clean with any veins, exactly like the Jews would like to eat it. He says, I'm giving you a thigh that has Gid Hanasheh, I didn't want to bother. Like you at least you're notifying him. Or you're giving somebody a gift with the chicken. You say, I couldn't eat it, so I'm giving it to you. It's different than giving somebody something that you could use and you handing it over to him to use.
But
It's a whole different issue.
If you wanted the flavor, now you're depriving him of having.
No,
access to
obviously,
it.
if the guy is going to say, "Well, I actually like it this way,"
Right.
but he knows he knows that you didn't sacrifice so much to give him that thigh.
He knows what you're giving.
He knows he's getting a thigh that you didn't want to deal with the. Maybe for him it's better this way. You would say, "Hey, I like it even more that he didn't take out the thigh," but you were straightforward. You were honest about it. You didn't make him think that you're giving him something so unique and so. Because a guy might say, you know what, I want to live up to your standards. I want to eat what you are eating.
Yeah.
He might say that way. Anyway, the idea is not to be deceptive. Which is taking us to a very big issue in America, that people say, I send you email, I hope this email finds you well, I hope you feel good, and how are you, and they don't really mean it. So it goes into many different areas. Well, where is the fine line over here? But that's a discussion for another day. Because there's a courtesy, there's a way of speaking, and there's really showing interest in the person. Is it real interest, or is it just to open a conversation?
It's not coming from the heart.
Yeah, it's like, I want to lead you to somewhere, so I'm starting, how's your wife doing, how are the kids, what's happening, by the way, like the old man, the detective, he told me. He'll tell you afterwards who Peter was.
He knows Colombo.
By the way, I forgot to ask you, forgot to mention.
That was the most important part of it.
So that's deception, and they have to learn to do this type of high level deception. Okay.
Donald Trump was doing with this the Korean guy.
With the rocket man.
In advertising,
So the guy's gonna
deception.
come over, and the guy realizes it.
That's
so
what I was saying. There's
stopped,
many layers to it.
He stopped giving anything, so Trump said, "I'm gonna forget about it. Goodbye."
Yeah.
You spray the food with water to make it look juicy for the photo, but you're never gonna get that.
According to the one who said that Shmuel was upset because the hen was a treifa. Amar le amai tashi isur. So one could say that Shmuel, in showing his displeasure with his attendant's behavior, was saying to him, why do you retain forbidden foods in your possession? In other words, you can say that Shmuel displeasure, or showing that he was not comfortable with what his attendant do, related to something else. He wasn't happy that why my attendant is having in possession a hen that is treifa. Not that he gave it to the guy. Why did you have it to begin with?
One step before.
Yeah. So that's one argument you can make on this story. Another one, it says, according to the one who said that he wanted to give him a revis of wine, the measurement of wine, 3.1 ounces, different halachas, what is revis, but he said, Anpok chayo mashma. One could say that Shmuel was upset at his attendant for disobeying him. For Anpak, it's pure wine. He said that not because he gave him that, because he just didn't listen to what he said. I gave an instruction, you didn't follow the instruction, that's it. It's not about that you gave the goy diluted wine. I couldn't care less if I would, but it's about not following instructions. The Gemara cites a brayso regarding the prohibition against stealing one's mind. Tanya Rabbi Menashe Amitay. Person should not urge his fellow to dine with him. If I know that you'll never eat in my house, I don't know, you have a very strict level of kashrus, I know you'll never eat in my house.
Or the person won't come because he knows you're an oni.
Whatever it is, yeah. Let's
so
hope it's a guy is a very high level of kashrus. Is very strict about kashrus. He's you know that he'll never eat. And I come to say, please come to my house. So what do I do by that? I know you're not going to come, but I make you feel like I want you to come to my house. So I gain points by you. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm gaining points without going through the hardship of actually bringing you into the house and feeding you and taking care of you and entertaining you. I don't have to go through the trouble because I know you're not going to come. So I get the point without doing the work. Okay? Like politician. They get the credit without doing the work. A good prime minister, he hires a good treasury minister and a good whatever guy that handles the roads. And he says, he makes them work, they do so hard. You see what my government did? You didn't do it. You hire people to do it. They did it. No, I did it. You take the credit to yourself.
You know what? Finding good people.
No, obviously he has power to it. Obviously you have power with it, but who actually did it?
Trump and Netanyahu, they have backstabbers.
If something goes wrong, he said this guy was not. It's not my fault. He messed up. It happens. People screw up. What should I do?
Right.
So,
I want to ask you a quick question.
why are you using your government?
It's a very quick
Yeah,
question.
but I thought it was good. We tried. He had a few good things, but we're gonna fire him. We're gonna find someone else.
It's a very fine point. It's very quick. I once heard that if somebody does a mitzvah for you, you aren't allowed to say thank you to the person. In other words,
Not allowed?
Not allowed to say thank you to the person. In other words, because Hashem is supposed to give the person the reward, the schar, for doing the mitzvah.
No, but I heard about it. That's really going. People, if somebody gives you a loan, somebody helps you, you have to be appreciative because it could have been done by someone else. You could have said no, and you have to go to another person.
Just ask me why would there be such a? There is such a.
No. You don't want to give him. It says no, and it's like almost like ribis. It's an interest by.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, but you don't want it. But still, you can be appreciative that he didn't make you. He didn't give you the runaround. It didn't make you go to another. A guy somebody comes to you and says, I need $1,000 loan, $1,000 loan. You can give him 1,000 easily, but you say, I'm going to give you 300. So he has no choice. He takes it, and now we have to go to another person, another person, another person. You're giving him a hard time. So if you're giving him $1,000, you need to say thank you for not giving him the runaround.
Yeah.
Not you trying to butter him up or things like that. You're just being appreciative. I think it's a mitzvah to do. Required, of course, a tov. Derech eretz also. No, but not ribis. If you're doing it in such a way that you're standing on the bima and you say, wow, so and so.
And you have to think about what you're saying, what you really mean.
Right, obviously.
You have to be very careful.
So Tanya,
just open your mouth and just say anything that comes out.
A person should not urge his fellow to dine with him when he knows that he will not dine. Nor should he make numerous offerings of gifts. But you know he's not going to take the gift. So why do you don't do it? Don't start offering and giving him gifts. You know he's going to give it back to you.
Can I just say something? They say that people that go to prison, the first thing the other prisoners do is they go to the new prisoner, they say, here's a pack of cigarettes. They say if the person takes it, they're in big trouble because they owe that person now. In other words, and that person is going to come back and say, now you're going to do this for me, you're going to do this for me, because you took the pack of cigarettes, and cigarettes are very valuable. Be careful what you take.
Nor should he open for him barrels that have been sold to a shopkeeper. Unless he notifies him that they were sold. So it says in 22, in the Mishnaic period, wine was stored in sealed barrels, and it was customary to honor a distinguished guest by unsealing a new barrel and offering him fresh wine, fresh, strong wine, straight from the barrel. Now, generally, this would result in a significant loss to the host because he's opening a barrel.
Right.
And once it's open, it doesn't have the same
Seal.
right.
Seal.
For the barrel would remain partially empty, and the wine would begin to sour. I guess the air, they have now air in the barrel, and it starts to sour. If, however, the host had already arranged that the content of the barrel be sold to a shopkeeper, so he knows, Reuven comes to me on Shabbos, I'm going to open a barrel. The rest of it I'm going to sell right away. I'm making a deal already with the shopkeeper that he will take the rest of it. The unsealing of the barrel would result in no loss, since he will immediately afterwards give the wine to the shopkeeper. So the guy that you opened the barrel of wine for him,
Things that
you didn't do such a big sacrifice, but he thinks you did.
Still had a
Isn't-
plan and
Right,
about
in
it
his
later.
mind, in his mind, he opened for me a barrel, but he didn't. A big thing, right? But he didn't. Elaim ken oidio. So you have to notify him that they were sold. Although I'm giving you from an open barrel, but the rest of it I'm selling. So don't think that I lost so much money on you.
You might be tempted to drink the whole thing, so there's no loss for us.
Yeah, but obviously, likelihood that someone is drinking a whole barrel of wine is.
Hopefully it never happens.
ולא יאמר לסוך שמן מפח ריקון. Nor should he say to him, anoint yourself with oil, when he's actually offering him from an empty flask. What is the case over here? It says in 23, he offers him an empty flask of oil with which to anoint himself, because he knows that he does not generally anoint himself, and thus he is not concerned that he might open the flask and see that it is empty. This constitutes genevas das, stealing his mind, genevas das. For the guest assumes that there is oil in the flask, that the offer was sincere. Really, there was nothing there. It's like giving somebody a bag of money and there's nothing in the bag. It looks like the suitcase.
It
There's
says
nothing.
by the Ishmaelim, right, when they met the Yidden in the Midbar, they gave them flasks, in other words, and they thought that they were going to be drinking water. And Rashi says that when they put it to their mouth, air came out and it went into them and it killed them. In other words, they
Right.
thought that they were getting water and they were getting air which went inside them and killed them.
Right. So, ve'im b'shvil kvoid lemuta. However, if he does so for his honor, it's a very distinguished guy. He does for, if he's not going to do it, maybe he'll get insulted. And offering him the oil would be for his honor. You would be permitted to do it. It is permitted to do it. It is permitted to offer the guest empty flask of oil when the intent is to indicate to others, I guess to other people who are there, who will assume that the flask does contain oil, his fondness for his guest, to show how he cares about.
Symbolic gesture.
Yeah,
People say you want anything to eat, anything to drink.
right. Now, some people really mean it, some people don't. The Gemara says, the Gemara questioned the prohibition of opening barrels that were sold to the shopkeeper. Eini, is that so? Why Ula visited the house of Rav Yehuda, and he opened for him barrels that were sold to a shopkeeper. The Gemara says, oidue, oidee. Rav Yehuda notified Ula that they were sold, so there was no problem with it. Shani Ula de Rav Yehuda. Ula was different, for he was dear to Rav Yehuda. He would regardless open the barrels for him, whether they were sold or not. He would open it. Tanu Rabban, a person should not go to the house of mourning or mourner and hold in his hand a flask of wine that splashes, that is partially empty. Like what kind of, what are you trying to demonstrate? You're coming to the Warner house with half a bottle, I mean you drank half a bottle of wine and you're holding it in your hand. Now, here's the trick. V'lo yamalenu mayim. Don't fill it with water. Why? It's like I remember once I was walking in Brooklyn with my kids, and in Brooklyn they have this rule that they sell you a bottle of whatever it is, and they put it in a brown bag. So I walk with my kids with this drink, I don't know, juice, maybe apple juice, orange juice, I don't remember what it was. Suddenly a guy comes over to me, he tells me, show me what's in the bag. And I see it was not dressed like a cop, but he had the tag, he was a detective. So I showed him the bottle and he left. So they were cracking down on people who drinks in the street.
Yeah,
But it was a deception because it was in the brown bag. So there was no way for him to know what's inside the bottle. People would drink alcohol in the street and then who knows what they were doing. They wanted to make sure that it. So over here, he says if you fill you can trick him even more. You take a bottle of beer or a bottle of wine, you empty it and you fill it with water. So now he thinks you are drinking alcohol, but you're not drinking alcohol.
You know what a rabbi over in the BRS said? Okay, so they had a new couple, and the girl found out she was pregnant, and it was the Seder. Now they didn't want to tell everybody that she was pregnant. So if they would act like they're going to not, if she wasn't going to drink the wine, then everybody's going to know. So they took a fancy bottle of wine, emptied the bottle, put in some grape juice, and put in front, and made a big deal about it.
Very smart.
But then at the end, the father said, "Oh, this wine sounds so good. Let me have some." And then he realized it was grape juice. But then he realized what they were doing.
Wow. Tanu Rabbon, lo lechodna ve'sov ve'odo logina miskashkish lo malenu mayim pnei shemateu. So for should he fill it with water, for he deceives him. He deceives the ovel, the mourner. It says in 27, he should not fill the partially empty flask by adding water to it, for he deceives the mourner who assumes that it is full of wine. However, if there is an assembly of townsfolk there, and he does so to enhance the mourner's prestige in their eyes, mutar, it is permitted. A person should not sell his fellow a sandal made of the leather of an animal that died on its own. Right? A nevela. Under the pretense that it was made from leather of live animal that was slaughtered. For two reasons. One, because he deceives him, and number two, it is because of the danger involved. What's the danger involved in giving somebody a leather shoe? So it says in 31, for perhaps the animal died on account of having bitten by a snake, and some of the venom was absorbed by the leather, and may ultimately be absorbed in the flesh of the one who wears it.
He has a cut on
And
his
think about that, huh?
if he has a cut on his foot, right? And he puts on the sandal, it has venom.
Could be absorbed. The Raisa cites a tragic incident that occurred when this precaution
sad story.
was not heeded. Masa be'echod, and there was an incident involving someone, sheshigil lechaver chovis shel yain v'shem tzof al piyah. Somebody gave his friend a barrel of wine with oil floating on top. V'olach v'zimen. It was a barrel of wine, but there was oil floating on top. V'olach v'zimen ole orchim, and he went and invited guests to a feast, relying on the oil that he assumed it contained.
The oil is more valuable to him than the wine.
Right, that's why he invited the guests for the oil. V'nichnasu, and the guest entered to the feast. Motza she'ishel yain. And he then found the barrel to be wine. So he was so disappointed, v'chona kesatzmoi, and he was so embarrassed about not having what to feed them, he strangled himself. He killed himself because of the embarrassment. The Baisa continues, and the guests are not permitted to give them or to give from that which is placed before them, livnoi ulevitoi shel baal habais, to the son or daughter of the host. Ela im ken notlu reshus mi baal habais, unless they received permission from the host. You can't give the children of somebody things without notifying the father. It says in 33,
Maybe the guest can, right?
for perhaps the host has nothing else to offer them, and will be embarrassed that he's unable to replenish the food that they gave away. Meiri maintains that this is that was from the Rambam, but Meiri maintains that this is only of concern when food is scarce. It's hard to find, as in the incident cited below. A similar position is taken by the Morgan Avram and a Leo Rabba cited by Mishnah Berurah.
This next verse is even sadder, make me cry. It's so sad.
So you have to ask permission before you give to someone's kids. The Baisa again cited a tragedy which occurred when the precaution was not followed. There was an incident involving one shezimen shloisho oirchin b'shnei batzoros, who invited 3 guests during years of famine. And he did not have what to place before them other than 3 eggs. The son of the host came, and one of the guests took his portion and gave it to the child. And the second guest did the same thing, gave it to the child. And so did the third. The father of the child came and found him enveloping 1 egg with his mouth, and 2 eggs with his hand. He knocked the child to the ground and he died. He smacked the child and the child died. It gets worse. When his mother saw what happened, she ascended to the roof, fell down and died. Also, he saw what he did, ascended to the roof, fell down and died. On account of this matter, 3 Jewish souls were killed. The failure of the guests to follow the precaution of the rabbis not to offer food to the host children. Barry said, like if they would have followed, they asked the guy, "Can we give the egg to the child?" This whole incident was would be avoided.
Shouldn't have invited them if they didn't have more than 3 eggs.
He doesn't say he didn't have more. He just said it was a year of famine. It was probably scarce. Food was scarce at the time. What is the Tana of the Baisa's teaching us by recording Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's statement? The Chul Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakovi. He is teaching the entire Baisa. He's teaching that the entire Baisa is the teaching of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The Gemara returns to the topic discussed in our Mishnah, citing a Baisa relating to that topic. Tanu Rabbon, Ashoileach yorech lechaveiro yishleimo. One sends a thigh to his fellow Jew. It's shlema, it's a whole. The sender need not first remove the Gid Hanasheh from it. Chasucho, but if it is cut up, Tzorich litol imena Gid Hanasheh. He must first remove the Gid Hanasheh from it. Up till now, he's giving it from a Jew to a Jew. If it's a complete one, if it's a whole, he doesn't have to remove it, but if it's cut up to pieces, he has to remove it. Uve'ovet kochavim, in the case of one who sends a thigh to an idolater, ben chasucha or ben shlemo, whether cut up or whole, eino tzorich litol imena Gid Hanasheh. He doesn't have to remove the Gid Hanasheh, giving it to a goy. Mipnei shnei dvarim amru. And it is for two reasons that the sages said, Ein moichin nevelos utrefos le'ovet kochavim. That one may not sell nevelos or trefos to an idolater. Why? And it says in the note, without telling him that it's trefa, meaning you have to notify him that it's trefa. Mipnei shnei dvarim amru, ein moichin nevelos utrefos le'ovet kochavim. For two reasons, the sages said that one may not sell nevelos trefos to an idolater. Echad mipnei shemateu. Number one, because you're deceiving him. He deceives him. Ve'echad shemayachzor kirenu l'Yisrael acher. The other is perhaps he will turn around and sell it to another Jew. It says in 45, the restriction of selling meat to an idolater applies in all situations, unless the following two conditions are met. First, he tells the idolater that the meat is from a treifa, in which case the idolater is not being deceived, and the first reason for the restriction is inapplicable. And the second, it is a place where they do not announce the occurrence of treifa, so the Jew would not buy it, or in a place where they do announce on a day that they announced the occurrence of a treifa, in which case it is forbidden for a Jew to buy meat from an idolater, which renders the second reason inapplicable. So you have to have these two things in order to give it to a goy. Number one is to tell him, and number two, make sure that if they announce or didn't announce, you give it on that day. If it's a place they don't announce, the Jew would know not to buy it from an idolater. He says, how would I know? And if they a place where they do announce, you have to give them on the day of the announcement. And a Jew should not say to an idolater, Kach li bedinar ze basar, go and buy meat for me with this dinar, mipnei shnei dvorim, for two reasons. Echad mipnei ha'anosim, one reason is on account of extortionist. It says in number one, for perhaps the idolater is an extortionist who will keep the dinar for himself and rob the butcher by forcing the butcher to supply him with meat without paying. This is more likely to occur here, since the extortionist already has a buyer for the stolen meat. Right? Somebody gave him money. He already has a buyer. Just need now, he doesn't want to spend that money, so he steals the meat and he gives it to the Jew. So that's number one, why you shouldn't give it to the goy, because maybe he's an extortionist. And number two, and the other is perhaps they will see the goy, the butcher will see the goy. He said, why should I give him the glat meat? I'll give him something that is not kosher.
Cheaper.
He doesn't know that he's giving it to a Jew. Omar, with the stories of the Baal Shem Tov, it's always that they said that people used to send the non-Jewish servant or attendant to the Baal Shem Tov to shech the chicken. So they would know that the guy is going to the Baal Shem Tov to shecht it. And when the Baal Shem Tov stopped doing shchita or he moved to a different town, the Goy himself told the owners that this guy doesn't know how to shecht. The new guy, he doesn't do a proper job. He said because the Baal Shem Tov used to cry when he shecht the chicken. He said like he would wash his knife with tears. Omar, the master said in the first clause of the Baisa, but in the case of one who sends thigh to an idolater. בין שלם או בין חתוכה, and צריך ליטול ממנה גיד הנשה, whether whole or cut up, he need not remove the gid hanasheh from it. B'ma yaskin? What are we dealing with? If you shall say that we are dealing with a place where they announce the occurrence of a treifa, and no announcement was made today, thus rendering it permissible to buy meat from idolaters. Why? When
the
he
announcement is that it's treifa, right? In other words, when they don't make the announcement, in other words, you can assume that everything is okay.
right now, why when he sends an idolater a cut up thigh, is he not required to remove the gid hanasheh? Question mark. Kevan de le'achuz. Since there was no announcement made today, or silam mizban minei, a Jew may come to buy it from the idolater. You said when there's an announcement, they're not going to buy from him. If there was no announcement, they might buy it from the goy. Ela pshita, rather it is obvious, b'mokim she'en machrizin, that the Braisa is dealing with a place where they do not announce, where it is forbidden to buy meat from an idolater. You know that there will be no announcement, so you're always careful not to buy from the goy. There is no concern that a Jew might in turn buy it from him and eat it with the gid hanasheh. The Gemara proceeds to analyze the Braisa's middle clause. Eimo metzioso. But consider then the middle clause of the Braisa. Mipnei shnei dvorim amru. It is for two reasons that the sages said, En moichin nevelos utrefes loevet kochovim. We said two reasons why you shouldn't sell nevelos and trefes to an idolater. Echad mipnei shemateu, ve'echad mipnei shema yachzor ykerenu leYisrael acher. Maybe it was the goy sell it to another Jew. Ve'i b'mokim shein machrizi. Now, if the Braisa is dealing with a place where they do not announce, and even if it's not announced, then it's forbidden to buy meat. There's no announcement that are being made. He's not going to get it from a goy. So that concern that he's going to turn around and sell it to a Jew is not applicable in a place where they do not announce. The Gemara has to say we're dealing with a case or a place where they do announce. It is obvious that this clause deals with a place where they do announce, and now we have a concern that he's going to turn around and sell it to a Jew, because the Jews said today there was no announcement, so obviously the thigh I'm buying from the goy with the gid hanasheh in it is probably kosher. The occurrence of a treifa, and it is thus permitted to buy meat from the idolater on a day that no announcement was made. We can thus establish that the second clause of the Braisa deals with a place where they do announce the occurrence of a treifa. The Gemara now proceeds to analyze the final clause of the Braisa. Consider then the last clause of the Braisa. A Jew should not say to an idolater, go and buy meat for me with this dinar. Right? We said shnei dvorim, echad mipnei anosim, one because of the extortionist, ve'echad shema meichil on nevelos utrefes, and the other is perhaps they will sell the goy nevelos, even if he's a nice guy and he's going to pay for the meat, you're not going to give him a kosher meat. Now, if the Braisa is dealing with a place where they do announce, remember my brother told me that he knows how to shechter. He used to do shchita before kaporis. So he did it in a place called Ramle in Israel. And he said that Arabs also came to him with chickens and said, shecht it for us. Because they eat halal. So they wanted to be specific. They said, shecht it for us. So he shechted for them. So he's not allowed to make the chicken not kosher or to use a knife, because it's deception. They are expecting you to have the same. How are they going to eat the chicken afterwards? If they do melicha, they're not going to do melicha. they're not going to salt. If
It's
they
their
were
problem.
salting it, it's their problem, but they ask you to. V'yi b'mokim shemachrizim. Now, if the Braisa is dealing with a place where they do announce, why is there concern that they might sell him nevelos or treifas? If it were so that there was a treifa, they would have surely made an announcement. It says in number 7, since no announcement was made, it is evident that there were no treifas in the slaughterhouses. Or there was no treifas in the slaughterhouse today. So the concern that we said before, you shouldn't give a goy dinar and you should take this money and go to the slaughterhouse to buy that. Maybe the butcher is going to give him non-kosher meat. It's not a problem because we're dealing with a place where they announce. So if they didn't announce anything, meaning there's no treifas in town. All the animals shechted today, back in the day obviously it was small towns, and each town, not a lot of people living there, and they shechted limited amount of cows every day. Today we have no connection with these things because whatever in the supermarket you come by, you don't think about this. But back in the day, you would know every day, in order to feed the town, they shechted a cow. So everybody knows the cow came out today kosher, glat, it didn't come out glat. The sheep came out glat, it didn't come out glat. So if they didn't announce anything, you know that everything was good. So there's no treifa for the butcher to sell the non-Jew.
There's an English expression, no news is good news.
Right. So there's nothing there.
Right?
No treifa to sell the goy.
Yeah.
Rabbi, is there anything that the adulterer can do after, like in between, once he has the meat until he gets to you to make it, rub it on the floor? Or
Possibly,
do
there's
something?
other issues. There's other issues. You know, there's halacha. It says basar shenisalam min ha'ain. You know that if you cook cholent in your house, and you have a cleaning lady that cleans the house, and you leave the house.
If you leave the house.
If you leave the house, and you come back, there was a time that she knows that you're not in the house, and maybe she even knows that it'll take you 3-4 hours. You don't know what she put in the meat. Maybe she said to herself, you know what, these Jews, we are Italians, we know how to eat meat.
Let me
Right?
prove something.
Let me
She
add
thinks
something
she's doing
to
you a favor.
Yeah, she thinks she's doing you a favor. So you can't, you're not allowed to do it. You can't leave.
But we talked about before, we talked about Yotzei the Nichnas, right? That the mashgiach is not
No, but I'm
always
speaking
doing
about-
it, goes out, and if she knows
In
he's coming back
Fleischik
at a certain
restaurant,
time,
mashgiach
It's always
that
there.
goes in and out, it's not good enough. In a non-Fleischik restaurant, you have a mashgiach who walks in and out, it's more acceptable. In a Fleischik restaurant, they want mashgiach tmidi.
but
Tmidi,
but
that
does
he's
the-
always there.
Does the mashgiach have to be in the mitbach? Does he have to be in the kitchen?
No, he has
watching
to be
everything?
around. They need to have the moiro, they need to have the
Fear,
yeah.
that he's there.
Marata.
Yeah, they need to know that the guy's
The
there.
problem is, if we have an invalid, like my mother-in-law was all these years, so she has the goyim there, they're doing everything in the house. So you don't know what's going on with the kashrut. What are they gonna do?
And oftentimes the goy will try to bring their lunch with them. Their trade
They had
lunch.
their lunch with them sometime, but I mean, I don't know. It was a difficult situation
Yeah.
when you had somebody that's an invalid.
I mean, just the cases that a lady left meat in the oven. She left the house, and she knew it's going to take her a while to come back. So she told the cleaning lady, "Can you take out the tray from the oven? Once the oven beeps, take out the trays." And then the cleaning lady took out the trays. Now, she called me up. She said, "I don't know. There's something." Those juice spilled in the oven. I don't know what to do. So it becomes an issue, because you really don't know what she did there.
I remember
Maybe she just spilled. Maybe you don't know.
I remember an
Maybe she
example.
said, "Take some butter. Let's add to the meat. Show them how to make food." You don't know what she.
We study
In bit intense.
What?
In bit intense, just not.
Yeah,
not
no, obviously not. It's not coming from a bad place.
I remember an example, I think, from the Shach in Yeridea, that it says that there was a time by the Sephardim that they had a person called a kafela, which was an expert taster, And in other words, if they had a mixture of basar v'chalav, in other words, or isser v'heter, they would give it to the kafela and they would tell him to taste the food to see if he tasted any treif. And the problem wasn't that if it was kosher, he would tell you it's treif. The problem would be that he thinks he's doing you a favor. In other words, he tastes the treif, and he's going to tell you it's kosher. In other words, because he's worried that you're going to throw it out and you're going to lose money. So after that, the Rabbanim started measuring shishim. In other words, you have to have shishim to be mevatel the isser instead of relying on an expert, cook to taste it for you.
It's true. Rather, it is obvious that this case deals with a place where they do not announce. So it's like if you say that in a place they do announce, you have an issue. If you say a place that they not announce, we also saw that it's challenging. So having established that the final clause of the Baisa deals with a place where they do not announce the occurrence of a treifa, the Gemara summarizes the inconsistencies in the Baisa and asks, Reisha v'seifa b'mokum shemachizim. The first clause of the Baisa involving sending thigh meat to an idolater without removing the Gid Hanasheh, and the last clause of the Baisa involving sending an idolater to buy meat deals with a place where they do not announce of the occurrence of a treifa in the slaughterhouse. While the middle clause of the Baisa involving selling non-kosher meat to an idolater deals with a place where they do not announce the occurrence of a treifa in the slaughterhouse. Can we interpret the Baisa in such an inconsistent manner? So, in other words, decide where you're going with this. Is it a place where they do announce? Is it a place where they do not announce? Amar Abaye Ein. Yes, we are compelled to interpret the Baisa in such a manner, and indeed, Reisha v'seifa b'mokum she'en machrizim. The beginning of the Baisa and the end of the Baisa are dealing with a place where they do not announce. And the middle of the clause deals with a place where they do announce. Rava says actually the entire Baisa deals with a place where they do announce. Reisha v'sefer shechisu, the first clause and the last clause are addressing when they announce that a treifa was slaughtered. Metziasa shelo yachziru, in the middle clause refers to when they did not announce that a treifa was slaughtered. Ravashi Omar Kula b'mokim shen machrizin u'metziaso, and the middle one prohibits, meaning the entire Baisa deals with a place where they do not announce, where it is forbidden, where it is prohibited for a Jew to buy meat from an idolater, because they do not announce, so there is no way for you to know. U'metziaso, and the reason that the middle clause prohibits selling non-kosher meat to an idolater, perhaps the slaughter the sheikhet will sell it to the idolater in the presence of a Jew, who will assume that it is kosher and buy the treifa meat from him. The Gemara discusses the wording of the announcement that was used in the place where the occurrence of treifa was announced. Heichi machrizinon. What is the text of the announcement that we make to notify the public about the occurrence of a treifa? What type of announcement do we make? We announce meat for the general populace has fallen into our hands. Meat that is good for everybody else has fallen to our hands. But let us say explicitly, why do you speak in such a vague, convoluted, vague way? Say it clearly, explicitly. Treifa meat for the general populace has fallen into our hands. Lo izovne, then the idolaters will not buy the meat, because they think something is wrong with the meat. They understand, okay, it's wrong for the Jews. They think, oh, it's wrong for you, it's wrong for me. But the meat sellers are misleading them, for they are under the impression that they are purchasing kosher meat. The Gemara says, it is they who are misleading themselves. And the goy would be meaning, it says in 18, for they should have asked whether the meat is kosher or not.
What I'm buying.
Yeah, you should know. What are you buying? Are you buying Bes Yosef? You're buying Glad? You're buying Shur? Whatever. And let that incident involving Marzutra, the son of Rav Nachman, who was going from Sichra to Bei Mechoiza. And Rava and Rav Safra were coming to Sichra. They met each other on the road. One is going north, one is going south, or vice versa. Marzutra thought that they were coming to greet him. Why did you bother to come all the way to greet us? Rav Safra said to him, we didn't know that the master was coming. But had we known that, we would have troubled ourselves even more. Rava said to Rav Safra, what is the reason? What is the reason that you said so to him, and this disheartened him so? Rav Safra said to Rava, but had I not said so, we would be misleading him into thinking that we came to honor him. Who told him to think that we were coming for him? Remember that I told you the people. It was I think it was Reb Zalman Moshe. It was a famous mashpia. It was a mashpia of a Mendel Futterfass. So he once walked into the room. It was a big Talmid Chacham, a great scholarly man. He came into a shul, or he came into the room. Everybody got up. So Habregin, whatever it took place. So he told people to sit down. So when he sat down, one of the Hasidim told him, how do you know they got up for you, that you were saying to sit down? Maybe they got up for whatever other reason. Obviously it was obvious that they got up for him. But the Chassid was hacking at him. Who said they got up for you? What are you thinking of yourself so much? And you were saying, sit down. Like a judge in the court. You may rise, you may sit. What is the... So Zalman Moshe took it to heart. He didn't dismiss what the guy told him. He said, you know what, I got to work on myself. I shouldn't be thinking. So here the Gemara says, Rava replied, it is he who misled himself. We are under no obligation to correct his mistake. Why do we have to correct his mistake? Similarly, the idolater has only himself to blame for assuming that the meat is kosher, without inquiring whether it is indeed so. Ask. It was mentioned, the preceding Gemara, that in a place where the occurrence of treifus is announced, it is permitted to buy meat from an idolater and prohibited to sell treifa meat to an idolater on a day that no announcement was made. The Gemara cites a related incident. So we said two things over here. First of all, it says it's a place where they are machrizin, place occurrence of treifus is announced, that it is permitted to buy meat from an idolater because if they didn't announce, it's obviously kosher. And number two, prohibited to sell treifa meat on the day that there was no announcement made. There was this certain butcher who said to his fellow, had you been on good terms with me, Milosfailach mishir shel patum dav desmo. Would I not have provided you, literally fed you with meat from the fattened ox that I slaughtered yesterday? Meaning, if you were good friends, I would take care of you. But since you're not such a good friend, we're not in good terms, you lost a good meal yesterday. So he said to the butcher, indeed, I did eat from its choicest parts. I already had a good steak yesterday, so don't feel so, you're not threatening me. The butcher said to him, from where did you obtain such a good piece? He said to him, for so-and-so, the idolater meat vendor bought from you and provided to me. He said, I didn't buy directly from you. The guy went to you, bought, and gave me. The butcher said to him, I actually slaughtered 2 fattened oxen, and the one that I sold the guy was treifa. Rabbi said, on account of this deranged person who acted improperly. Who acted improperly? It says in number 4, by selling treifa meat to the vendor for sale in the meat market, thereby misleading this other person who purchased the meat from the idolater, assuming that it was kosher. So the seller is the shoite over here, right? Anu nesor kol hamukolin, shall we prohibit buying meat today in the entire meat market? So a guy made a mistake. We should make now.
Just like you said, don't sell a car to a Yid.
Yeah.
Because he's going to drive it on Shabbos. Don't sell any cars.
So we'll continue, God willing, Shabbos.
Can I mention something?